Can you talk with us about what you see for the AI economy? Because we get a lot of doomerism there. We also have perhaps very unlikable figureheads at some of these companies that don't make us necessarily that sympathetic to the push for AI. But regardless, it's here. It will be a part of our economy. What does that mean in terms of jobs and the investment in this? And do you see that the federal government at some point may bail out this industry? Because some of these companies seem to not be as stable as perhaps they looked a couple of years ago.
Okay. Let me try and set the scene first. I've been an economist for a while. This is the most interesting disruption of my lifetime.
Mm.
I am a labor economist, and I think the world will be enormously different. I think the set of issues involved, it will transform our lives. It is already. Some might say that sounds like boosterism. I think, I spent a lot of time on this stuff. I think it's just a reality. If I think about my own career, what am I good at? I read widely, understand most of introductory economics, and am able to transform it into simple English. What does a large language model do? Reads widely, understands most of it, and transforms it into simple English. So,
But do they do it accurately?
increasingly, yes. I understand the critique, but the reality is people make mistakes too. And so would I trust an LLM versus a talking head?
Mm.
Got to tell you, those talking heads are kind of relentlessly wrong, and often for partisan reasons, and sometimes they're poorly educated. Remember, everyone you see on TV is there as a result of a 32-year-old booking producer being impressed by them.
Or in my case, there's nobody else to ask questions.
Hey, we're not on TV. We don't count. We're new media. We're here on merits.
Yeah.
Your audience came to you. So I just want to point out, I think this I personally feel like a Detroit auto worker in the 1970s. And I think a lot of other white-collar workers should feel the same way.
Mhm.
And that's before we get to any of the broader political questions, which is what happens in a world in which there are 3 AI companies that own all the world's compute? And what happens if we get down to 1? And who gets all the profits, and so on and so forth. Inequality could be transformed into something that it's not hard to tell stories where inequality is dramatically different, where economic life is different, where social life is different. In which case, the most obvious implication is that this is the most important policy debate of our lifetimes. In which case, my disappointment with this president is that we're talking about ballrooms and not stuff that matters. And I am totally serious about that the greatest failing is to stand there watching society move under your feet and doing nothing with no awareness, no intention, no strategy, and no policy. The administration has seen AI as being a war or a race between us and China. I think that the intellectual foundation of that is very weak. And then it has said, so therefore the best answer is laissez-faire, which means our entire regulation around AI has been, go on, have fun. They're not even under pressure to not break too many things.
Right.
It looks like it might change, but I think the extent of the policy error of not being all over this can't be understated. So that's sort of, point number 1. Let me try and give you 2 reactions to AI. So, and partly this reflects my own thinking. So, I'm an economist. If I learn that an AI can do half my job for me, then I'm like, this is fantastic. It means I can get twice as much done. I can produce twice as much. And if I can produce twice as much, I can consume twice as much, which is the future is going to be the land of milk and honey. that white-collar work will be done effortlessly by machines. And so if the work's still getting done
Mhm.
and I don't have to start till midnight to do it, that sounds great.
Mhm.
This is a very natural frame for an economist. And that's why I'm an optimist about it. Now, I then spend some time talking to my kids. Or let me wear my dad hat. My daughter is 16. She's about to go to college in a couple of years' time. And she'll come at some point. No, she probably won't. But other kids come to me and they say, hey, what should I study in college? And my economist brain is good enough that I can say, well, I think there's no more work for translators because of AI. Don't study that. And I'm really worried about what's going to happen to coders. So let's stay away from computer science. And then they say, okay, well, then what should I study? And then I say, I don't know.
Mm.
I have a PhD in economics and wrote my thesis on labor economics. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
My
and
my youngest is a history major. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm really glad you have children. Look, I don't know for your kids either. I'm not holding out for mine. I just don't know. But that gets to, I think I find it's taken me so long sometimes it takes me a long time to be a real human. I was so excited by this efficiency gain, I didn't see the following, which is there is going to be immense disruption between here and there. Huge. And that disruption will hurt a lot of people and it
Mhm.
will help a lot. Most of our discussion, I think, is a little bit too negative because we talk a lot about the people it'll hurt and not that much about the upside. Fair enough. But for all of us, we don't know if we're going to be hurt and how much. And a very natural question is, you know what? I didn't ask for this. I was just living my life, raising my kids, going to work. And now everything's up in the air. Honestly, it took me a long time to figure this out, but I'd be pissed. So for people who are pissed, even an economist can see you now. But I do want to, I think reflexively being pissed is pointless. I think, first of all, the technology's here. Companies are going to use it. It is going to be part of your life. Secondly, I think the opportunity here is in fact immense. So our brains are very, very good at thinking about how other things can be substitutes.
Mhm.
Can the robot do what I can do? So
Mhm.
there's two words in economics. One is substitute. The other word is complement, right? So peanut butter and jelly are complements. They go well together. Peanut butter and Vegemite are substitutes. You'll either have one on your toast or the other. Most of us, most of the time, find it very easy to see the case for substitutes, in which case we're worried there's a robot that's going to take my job. But in reality, often new technologies turn out to be complements. They're a superpower. They're a cape you can tie around your neck and do whatever it is that you do and love doing and are good at doing even better. So I think we're a little too quick to see the downside. But I also understand that's not a fully fleshed out argument.
What are the potential goods here for humanity? In a best case scenario, what do you see with this new technology that could really help us, not just with the economy, but just, for humanity as a whole?
Yeah. So first of all, there's no difference between what's good for humanity and the economy. The economy is people. But I know you know that. Okay. The upside's vast. Let me give you a really simple thought experiment, which is how I like to think about it. Susan, your job, I'm sure, involves some number of frustrating, annoying things and some number of fun things and so on. If for your birthday I gave you a robot that can do any part of your job that you want it to,
Mm.
your life's going to be better, right? Of the 30 hours a week you spend doing annoying things, which includes unloading the dishwasher, it includes submitting reimbursement reports. It includes writing delicate emails to staff who are underperforming. It includes all the annoying things, right?
Mhm.
If I give you that robot, then you can either spend that 30 hours a week doing the parts of your job you love or go to the beach or write
I
poetry.
mean, we're in Michigan, so we have about 6 weeks for that, but
Yep.
nonetheless.
Well, you can go to the beach, it'll just be cold. You could write poetry. You could attend Michigan football games, and I hope you cheer for the right Michigan team. Do you have an admission to make?
I am the mother of 2 Spartans.
This interview's over.
I knew it had to end at some point. Why not about football?
Yeah. Okay, but if you get this robot, like, do you see I just described a version where you can get to use this technology that would enrich your life enormously? You could spend more time with your Spartans, maybe get them into Michigan next time. Sorry about that. So that's a version where it's literally utopian. Let me now give you a different version. I'm going to take the same robot, but I'm going to give it to your boss. Now, you don't have the boss because you're the executive editor, but if you had a real job, a normal job, you'd have a boss, right? And if I gave the robot to your boss, the boss would now say, Susan, I can get your job done for free.
Mhm.
You're fired. And all of a sudden now your boss is richer, but you're penniless.
Right.
The two scenarios, by the way, are technologically the same. They both involve a robot, in this case, AI. The only thing that's different is the ownership structure. So I think there's two things to draw from this story. One, there are ways in which this works out really well, right? The fact that you and I don't have to go to the bathroom outside or grow our own food, which sounds fun, but is actually kind of annoying when it's all the food you eat.
Right.
These are amazing marks of progress.
Right.
And we might come to see submitting reimbursement requests as being something also equally terrible, and we eliminate that from our lives. The other possibility, though, is all that work gets done by the robot, the boss gets richer, and eventually all of GDP is owned by the boss. You and I barely have enough food to get by, literally. And that's dystopia. So it's all on the table right now. And that's why I say this is the most important debate of our lifetimes. Now, you asked, either way, the cake gets bigger, the pie gets bigger, our economic pie gets bigger. The question is just what happens to your slice? You asked, though, when we start to think about the ways in which the pie could get bigger, then we can go back to being excited about it, which is I use a lot of AI in economics research. So we might learn better about how to run an economy.
Mm-hmm.
We have scientists using it in vaccine research or disease research or cancer research. And I know 1 million people are going to tell me it can't be a useful scientist, but actually the scientists doing this stuff disagree completely, and they expect to be enormously more productive as a result. So there are all sorts of objects of great usefulness and beauty that it can urge us towards. And the question is whether those who have are going to share with the rest of us.